I wasn't supposed to be at that restaurant that night. As a photographer, I usually spent my evenings immersed in editing or prepping for my next shoot. But there I was, stepping into the dimly lit, upscale restaurant on a whim. The evening had started like any other, an unremarkable dinner alone after a long day of work. Little did I know, I was about to walk into a scene that would change everything. The restaurant's soft glow was comforting, a sanctuary from the chaos of the city outside. I was just about to order when my gaze fell on a familiar face. It was Clara, my wife, seated at a table in the corner, her laughter mingling with the clinking of glasses. At first, I didn't think much of it. But then I saw him, John, her ex-boyfriend, sitting across from her. My heart sank. I had heard whispers of their past but had never imagined I'd see them together like this. John's hand brushed Clara's as he gestured animatedly, his eyes locked on hers. Clara's response was unmistakable, her smile was soft, her gaze tender. It was a scene that spoke volumes, none of which I was prepared to accept. I fumbled with my phone, pretending to check messages while snapping a few discreet photos. The photos were blurry and candid, but they captured enough of the moment to tell a story I wasn't ready to believe. I felt a cold knot in my stomach as I watched them share a private joke and lean in close. It was as if the world outside their bubble had ceased to exist. I needed air. I left the restaurant in a daze, the cool night wrapping around me like a cold embrace. The images I had captured seemed to burn into my mind, their implications sinking in with every step I took. How long had this been going on? How could Clara, who had always been so dedicated to our relationship, betray me like this? When I got home, I paced the apartment, the evening's events replaying in my mind like a broken record. I was furious, heartbroken, and consumed by a need for answers. My eyes fell on my camera bag, a constant companion in my professional life. An idea began to form, one that was both satisfying and terrifying. I would use my skills as a photographer to reveal the truth. If Clara and John were so eager to flaunt their betrayal, I would make sure everyone knew about it. I started planning the perfect revenge. The photos I had taken would be just the beginning. I needed more, a comprehensive collection that would leave no room for doubt. I would orchestrate a photo shoot that would capture every intimate moment, every secret meeting. And then, I would take it a step further. I would host an exhibition, a showcase of their indiscretions that would shock everyone they knew. It wasn't just about the betrayal anymore, it was about making a statement. Clara and John had made their choice. Now, I was going to make sure they faced the consequences. The hours following that fateful evening were filled with restless energy and cold resolve. I barely slept, my mind racing with plans and possibilities. By morning, the seeds of my revenge had already taken root. And I was ready to execute them. I began by sifting through the blurry photos I had taken at the restaurant. They were not perfect, but they were enough to ignite a fire in me. Each image revealed a small piece of the puzzle, and I needed more, much more. I resolved to capture them in a way that left no room for misinterpretation. My first step was to keep a close eye on Clara and John. I had to find out how often they met, and more importantly, where. I used my connections and skills as a photographer to discreetly track their movements. I started showing up at locations I knew they frequented, always staying out of sight but capturing every moment I could. The more I learned, the clearer the picture became. They had been meeting frequently, often in places that had a sense of intimacy, quiet cafes, secluded parks, and private art galleries. Each rendezvous was a new opportunity to document their relationship, and I took full advantage. I captured candid moments, stolen glances, and private conversations. The more I photographed, the more I was convinced that this was the right course of action. With a growing collection of incriminating photos, I began planning the exhibition. I wanted it to be an event that would ensure everyone saw the truth. I found a gallery space in a trendy part of town, one that would attract a wide audience. The gallery was known for its provocative exhibitions, which seemed like the perfect venue for my plans. I spent hours curating the photos, choosing those that would have the most impact. I wanted each image to tell a story, to reveal the extent of Clara and John's deceit. The exhibition would be more than just a display of their betrayal, it would be a statement, a public shaming that would leave a mark on their reputations. The day before the opening, I was a bundle of nerves and excitement. I walked through the gallery space, checking the placement of each photograph. The walls were adorned with images that chronicled their secret encounters, some tender, others more intimate and revealing. I made sure that each photograph was framed and lit perfectly, so there would be no mistaking their significance. As the hours ticked by, I couldn't help but think about the impact this would have. Would Clara and John realize the full extent of my plan? Would they be able to salvage their reputations, or would this be the end of their social lives as they knew it? When the night of the exhibition arrived, I was ready. I had invited everyone I knew, hoping to create a buzz that would ensure the gallery was filled with curious eyes. Clara and John were on the guest list, though I had a feeling they might not attend. Regardless, I wanted them to know that the event was meant to expose them. As the first guests began to arrive, I took a deep breath. This was it, the moment when everything would come to light. I could hardly wait to see their reactions when they saw the truth laid bare for all to see. The gallery buzzed with an air of excitement and anticipation as guests trickled in, their chatter mingling with the clinking of glasses and soft strains of ambient music. I stood near the entrance, a tight knot of nerves and satisfaction coiling in my stomach. The exhibit was ready, the photographs meticulously arranged, and the guests were beginning to file in. I observed the crowd from my vantage point, noting the curious glances and murmured conversations as they wandered through the gallery. The walls were adorned with striking images, each one a piece of the narrative I had painstakingly crafted. From the intimate cafe meetings to the more revealing encounters, the photographs were a stark portrayal of Clara and John's betrayal. At first, the reactions were subtle, whispers of intrigue and the occasional gasp as people took in the scenes before them. But it wasn't long before the impact began to ripple through the crowd. I watched as familiar faces, people from my own circle and Clara's social network, began to recognize the story unfolding in front of them. A few guests seemed to connect the dots quickly. Their expressions shifted from curiosity to shock as they pieced together who the images depicted. I saw one of Clara's close friends, Sarah, her eyes widening in disbelief as she looked at a particularly intimate photo of Clara and John. Sarah's reaction was mirrored by others, who started to voice their astonishment and confusion. The moment I had been waiting for arrived when Clara and John walked through the gallery's doors. They looked around with a mix of curiosity and apprehension, oblivious to the storm that was about to break. It wasn't long before they approached the first set of photographs, their faces gradually draining of color as they began to recognize themselves in the images. I noticed Clara's hands gripping John's arm tightly, her face a mask of disbelief. She moved from one photo to the next, her shock turning to anger as she saw the intimate moments I had captured. John's expression was a mix of shame and anger, his attempts to deflect attention failing as more and more guests began to notice their reactions. The room's atmosphere shifted from one of intrigued observation to outright gossip and judgment. Conversations turned louder, and the once sophisticated hum of the gallery was now filled with the murmur of scandalized voices. People began to openly discuss Clara and John, their whispers a testament to the scandal I had set in motion. I watched with a complex blend of satisfaction and sadness. The truth was out, and Clara's once enviable reputation was crumbling in front of everyone she knew. I saw her attempt to confront me, her face flushed with both anger and humiliation, but I remained composed. This was the moment I had orchestrated, and I wasn't going to let her intimidate me. The night dragged on, filled with the spectacle of Clara and John's increasingly desperate attempts to salvage their dignity. Their pleas for explanations and apologies fell on deaf ears as the guests continued to process the magnitude of the exposure. As the crowd slowly began to thin, I felt a sense of finality. The exhibition had achieved its purpose, and the fallout was unfolding as I had hoped. Clara's friends were avoiding her, the whispers of scandal following her as she exited the gallery. John's attempts to argue or explain did little to mitigate the damage. I was left alone amidst the remnants of the night, empty wineglasses, discarded programs, and the echo of voices that had once been full of intrigue but now spoke in hushed tones. I gathered my things, my heart heavy with the weight of what had transpired. The exhibition was over, but the effects of my actions would ripple through our lives for a long time to come. As I left the gallery, I took one last look at the empty space. The pictures had done their job. Clara's world had been turned upside down, and now, as I walked away, I couldn't help but wonder what the future would hold for both of us. The days that followed the exhibition were a whirlwind of chaos and disarray. I had expected the scandal to have repercussions, but the sheer scale of the fallout was more than I had anticipated. Clara's phone began to ring off the hook the morning after the exhibition. Her attempts to shield herself from the onslaught of calls and messages were futile. Friends and acquaintances who had once been close began to distance themselves, their sympathy giving way to judgment. The social circles that had once embraced her now shunned her, and the loneliness that followed was palpable. I watched from a distance, taking a grim satisfaction in the unraveling of her life. The exhibition had done its job, but seeing the real-world consequences unfold was both sobering and strangely gratifying. Clara's social media accounts, once filled with cheerful updates and photos, became a barren wasteland of angry comments and unfollowed connections. One afternoon, I decided to check in on Clara and see how she was holding up. My curiosity was tinged with a sense of finality. I wanted to understand the full extent of the damage and perhaps find some closure for myself. When I arrived at her apartment, I noticed the stark difference from how it had been before. The place was eerily quiet, the once vibrant atmosphere now overshadowed by an air of defeat. Clara opened the door, her face a mask of weariness and resignation. She looked older, more haggard than I remembered. The vibrant woman I had once known seemed to have vanished, replaced by someone who was struggling under the weight of her own mistakes. "Dylan," she said, her voice barely a whisper. There was no anger in her tone, just a deep, tired sadness. "Can we talk?" I nodded and followed her inside. We settled into the living room, the silence between us heavy with unspoken words. Clara stared at the floor, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She seemed to be searching for the right words, her usual confidence replaced by a profound vulnerability. "Look, I know I've made a mess of things," she started, her voice breaking slightly. "But you need to understand that it's not what it looks like." I let her words hang in the air. I had seen enough to know that this wasn't about misunderstandings or misinterpretations. The photographs had been clear, and the implications had been undeniable. But part of me wanted to hear her side, to understand how she justified her actions. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she continued. "John and we were trying to work through things. It wasn't just a fling or whatever people think. We were reconnecting, trying to understand if there was something still there." Her explanation was feeble, and I struggled to find sympathy. "You could have talked to me, Clara. Instead, you chose to hide and deceive." "I know," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "I should have been honest with you. I thought it would be easier if I just kept things quiet. But I was wrong, and now I'm paying the price." I couldn't deny the pain in her voice, but it was overshadowed by the anger I still felt. The damage had been done, and no amount of regret would change that. I remained silent, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. The conversation ended in a quiet, strained acknowledgement of what had happened. Clara was left to grapple with the fallout while I walked away with a mix of emotions: anger, satisfaction, and an unsettling sense of finality. Over the next few weeks, Clara's life continued to unravel. The once tight circle of friends she had enjoyed now seemed distant and cold. Her reputation was marred, and the social ostracism she faced was unrelenting. John, too, faced his own consequences, though his plight was less visible. The damage to their reputations was a stark reminder of the price of betrayal. As for me, I found a strange sense of peace in the aftermath. The exhibition had served its purpose, and the truth was out. I began to focus on my own life, channeling the tumult of the past months into my work. The project that had started as a means of revenge became a stepping stone for my own personal growth and creative expression. Clara and I had both been irrevocably changed by the events, but as time passed, I started to see a glimmer of hope for the future. The fallout had been devastating, but it had also paved the way for new beginnings, both for her and for me. And in that reflection, I found a bittersweet sense of closure. Weeks had turned into months since the exhibition, and life had settled into a new rhythm. The initial shock of Clara's public exposure had faded, but the echoes of the scandal lingered in the background of our lives. For Clara, it meant grappling with the remnants of her reputation, while for me, it meant navigating the path of personal recovery and new beginnings. I focused on my work, channeling my energies into a new project that had been simmering in the back of my mind. The aftermath of the exhibition had given me a new perspective on life and art, and I decided to use this opportunity to explore themes of truth, betrayal, and redemption in my photography. The project was cathartic, helping me process the emotions that had plagued me and turning my experiences into something meaningful. Meanwhile, Clara was trying to piece her life back together. The once bustling social circles that had surrounded her were now sparse, and she faced an uphill battle to regain her standing. She made attempts to reconnect with old friends and rebuild her reputation, but the path was steep and fraught with obstacles. The damage from the exhibition was not easily undone, and Clara's efforts were met with a mix of sympathy and skepticism. One evening, as I was working late in my studio, I received a message from an old friend who had been close to both Clara and me. It was an invitation to a small gathering, a chance to catch up and, perhaps, to address some of the unresolved tensions that had surfaced in the wake of the scandal. I hesitated at first, unsure if I was ready to face the past. But curiosity and a desire for closure nudged me to attend. The gathering was at a cozy cafe, a place I had frequented often but hadn't visited in months. As I walked in, I saw familiar faces mingling, their conversations soft and filled with the warmth of old friendships. The atmosphere was cordial but slightly tense, as if everyone was walking on eggshells. Clara was there, standing quietly near the back, her presence a stark reminder of the events that had transpired. Our eyes met briefly, and I could see a mixture of regret and determination in her gaze. I approached her cautiously, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. "Clara," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "It's been a while." "It has," she replied, her voice steady but laced with the exhaustion of the past few months. "I wanted to talk to you, if that's all right." We found a quiet corner of the cafe, away from the din of conversation. Clara began to speak, her words carefully chosen and imbued with a sense of sincerity. "I've been trying to make sense of everything that happened. I know I can't undo what's been done, but I wanted to apologize, to you and to everyone affected." Her apology was heartfelt, and for the first time, I saw a glimpse of the person I had once known before the betrayal. She spoke about the struggles she faced and the lessons she had learned. It was clear that the experience had profoundly affected her, and she seemed to be genuinely seeking redemption. "I appreciate your apology," I said, my voice softer than I had intended. "But I need to be honest with you. The hurt and the damage are still fresh. It's not just about the public fallout, it's about the personal betrayal." Clara nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "I know, and I'm sorry. I can't change the past, but I want to make amends in any way I can." Our conversation continued, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of resolution. Clara's attempts to make amends were not about erasing the past but acknowledging it and moving forward. It was a small step, but it was a step toward healing. As the evening drew to a close, I left the cafe feeling a mix of emotions. The confrontation with Clara had been difficult, but it had also been a step toward closure. Both of us were on different paths now, navigating the aftermath of our actions and trying to rebuild our lives. In the weeks that followed, Clara continued her efforts to rebuild her reputation, and I poured my energy into my new project, which was slowly gaining recognition. Life moved forward, and the scars of the past began to fade, replaced by new experiences and opportunities. For both of us, the journey was far from over. The impact of the exhibition would always be a part of our stories, but it was no longer the defining chapter. We had both faced the consequences of our actions and were finding ways to move on, each in our own way. As I looked ahead, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. The past had been a turbulent and painful chapter, but it had also been a catalyst for change and growth. And with that understanding, I began to embrace the future, ready to face whatever it held with a newfound sense of resilience and hope. Months had passed since that somber evening at the cafe. Life had settled into a new rhythm, and both Clara and I had begun to forge paths in our separate worlds. I was diving deeper into my photography, my new project evolving into something I hadn't initially anticipated, a source of personal healing and professional recognition. Clara, on the other hand, was slowly rebuilding her life, finding her footing in a more modest and reflective existence. One crisp autumn morning, I was preparing for a shoot in my studio when I received a phone call that caught me off guard. It was from Jane, one of Clara's old friends who had stayed in touch with me after the fallout. She asked if I was free for coffee, suggesting we meet at a quaint little cafe downtown. I agreed, curious about what prompted the request. When I arrived at the cafe, Jane was already seated at a corner table, her expression one of hesitant optimism. After exchanging pleasantries, she got straight to the point. "I've been meaning to talk to you about Clara," she said, her tone serious but kind. "She's been working hard to turn her life around. It's been a difficult road, but she's made some genuine changes." Jane's words piqued my interest. Despite our last conversation, I had remained somewhat disconnected from Clara's progress. Jane continued, explaining that Clara had been volunteering at a local community center, focusing on helping others who had experienced personal crises. Her involvement was not just about rebuilding her reputation but also about making a positive impact. "She's been working with young people, mentoring them through their own struggles," Jane said. "I know it might be hard to believe, but she's been putting in a lot of effort to make things right." Quote. The idea of Clara making amends through such meaningful work was surprising. Jane extended an invitation for me to attend a small event at the community center where Clara would be speaking. It was a chance to see firsthand the changes Clara was making. Reluctantly, but with a sense of curiosity, I agreed to attend. The event was held in a modest, brightly lit room at the community center, filled with an audience of local residents and young people. Clara stood at the front, her demeanor calm and earnest. She spoke about her journey, her struggles, and the lessons she had learned. There was a vulnerability in her voice that resonated with the audience. As I listened, I observed the genuine connection she had with those she was helping. Clara's words were accompanied by heartfelt stories and moments of self-reflection. It was clear that her experiences had led her to a place of empathy and understanding, far removed from the person I had known during the scandal. After the event, there was a reception where Clara and I had a chance to talk in a more informal setting. She approached me with a mixture of hope and apprehension, her eyes searching mine for a reaction. "Dylan," she began, "I wanted to thank you for coming. I know things between us have been difficult, but I needed you to see that I'm trying to make a difference." I looked at her, weighing my response. "I appreciate what you're doing, Clara. It's clear that you're trying to make amends and help others. That's something I can respect." Clara nodded, relief washing over her face. "I've learned a lot through this process. It's not just about fixing what was broken but about finding a way to move forward with integrity." Our conversation continued, and while it wasn't a reconciliation of our past, it was a step toward mutual understanding. Clara's efforts were genuine, and I could see that she was committed to making positive changes in her life. As I left the community center, I reflected on how far both of us had come. The past remained a part of our story, but it no longer defined our futures. Clara's path was one of redemption and growth, while mine was focused on healing and new opportunities. In the days that followed, I continued to immerse myself in my work, finding new inspiration in the changes that had occurred. The experience had taught me valuable lessons about resilience, forgiveness, and the power of moving forward. Life had moved on, and while the scars of the past remained, they were no longer a barrier to new beginnings. Clara and I were on separate paths, but both of us were learning to navigate the complexities of life with a renewed sense of purpose. As the seasons changed and the year drew to a close, I looked ahead with a sense of optimism. The future held promise, and with each step, I felt more prepared to face whatever came next. It had been a while since I'd seen Clara or even thought much about her. Life had settled into a new rhythm for me, filled with work, creative projects, and the occasional social event. I had moved forward, my photography continuing to gain recognition, and I was starting to feel a genuine sense of contentment. One chilly winter evening, I decided to take a break from my routine and visit a new art gallery that had just opened downtown. It was a place known for showcasing emerging artists, and I thought it might provide some fresh inspiration. The gallery was sleek and modern, with clean lines and an inviting ambiance. As I wandered through the various exhibits, admiring the eclectic mix of artworks, I felt a sense of tranquility. It was a welcome escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But as I turned a corner, I came face to face with an unexpected sight: Clara. She was standing in front of one of the exhibits, her attention fully absorbed by the artwork. The sight of her was startling, and for a moment, I stood frozen, unsure of how to react. Clara had changed since our last encounter. Her appearance was more refined, and there was a serene quality about her that suggested she had found some measure of peace. Before I could decide whether to approach her or retreat, Clara turned and saw me. Her eyes widened in surprise, and a moment of awkward recognition passed between us. She took a deep breath, her composure quickly returning. "Dylan," she said, her voice carrying a note of tentative friendliness. "It's been a while." "It has," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I come here often," Clara said, her gaze returning to the artwork. "It's a place where I can find some peace and perspective." We stood there for a moment, each lost in our own thoughts. The silence was thick with the weight of our shared history, yet there was an underlying sense of calm. Eventually, Clara broke the silence. "I've been meaning to reach out to you again, but I wasn't sure if it was the right time. I've been doing a lot of thinking and reflecting lately." I nodded, feeling a mix of curiosity and guardedness. "I've been following your progress from afar. It seems like you've been making strides." "Thank you," she said, her tone sincere. "It's been a long journey, but I've learned a lot. I wanted to show you that I'm making an effort to move forward, to live with integrity." Her words carried a sincerity that I hadn't expected. Despite the pain of the past, it was clear that Clara was genuinely trying to better herself. I decided to engage in the conversation, if only to understand her better. "Tell me more about what you've been working on," I said, gesturing toward a nearby bench where we could sit and talk. Clara took a seat, and I followed suit. As she spoke about her recent endeavors, including her work with the community center and her ongoing efforts to volunteer and support others, I saw a side of her that was markedly different from the person I had known during the scandal. "It's not just about making amends," Clara explained. "It's about understanding the impact of my actions and trying to make a positive difference. I've been involved in various initiatives, and it's been incredibly rewarding." I listened, absorbing her words and reflecting on how much had changed since our last significant interaction. Clara's journey of self-improvement was evident, and while it didn't erase the past, it was a testament to her commitment to growth. As our conversation continued, we found a tentative common ground. The past was still there, but it no longer dominated our interactions. We talked about our current projects, our aspirations, and the challenges we had faced. It was a conversation marked by mutual respect and understanding. When it was time to part ways, Clara and I exchanged a genuine farewell. There was no pretense or lingering bitterness, just a shared acknowledgement of the journey we had both been on. Walking out of the gallery, I felt a sense of closure and a renewed perspective. The encounter with Clara had been unexpected, but it had provided a new layer of understanding and a hint of reconciliation. Both of us were on separate paths, but our paths had crossed once more, offering a sense of completion. As I headed back to my studio, I reflected on the lessons learned and the growth that had come from our experiences. Life had a way of bringing people back into our lives when we least expected it, and sometimes those encounters offered a chance for healing and new beginnings. The future remained uncertain, but with each step forward, I felt more prepared to embrace whatever came next. And as for Clara, I hoped she continued on her path of self-discovery and positive change, finding the peace and fulfillment she sought. The winter months gave way to spring, and with the changing seasons came a renewed sense of optimism. I was deep into my latest project, which had started gaining traction and was even attracting some media attention. My professional life was flourishing, but there was an area of my personal life that had remained notably neglected: my relationships with old friends. I realized that the scandal and its aftermath had caused me to distance myself from many people who had been an important part of my life before everything went awry. Among them was Michael, a college friend with whom I had lost touch over the years. Michael had been a close confidant and a source of support during some of the more challenging times in my life. I had missed our conversations and the camaraderie we shared. One sunny afternoon, I decided to reach out to him. I found his contact information and sent a message inviting him for a coffee. To my relief, he responded positively, and we agreed to meet at a local cafe where we had spent many afternoons in the past. The day of our meeting, I arrived at the cafe early, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. The cafe was a charming place, filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the murmur of lively conversations. When Michael walked in, I recognized him immediately, though he had changed somewhat since I had last seen him. He looked more mature, but his warm smile and easygoing demeanor were familiar and comforting. "Dylan," Michael exclaimed as he approached. "It's great to see you." We embraced briefly before settling into a cozy corner booth. The conversation flowed easily, as if no time had passed since our last meeting. We caught up on each other's lives, discussing everything from career updates to personal anecdotes. As we talked, I couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed since the last time we had been in touch. Michael was curious about my recent work and the scandal that had so drastically affected my life. "You've been through a lot," Michael said, his voice filled with genuine concern. "How are you holding up?" "I'm doing better," I admitted. "The work has been a good distraction, and I've been focusing on rebuilding and moving forward. It's been a journey, but I'm finding a new balance." Michael nodded, understanding. "It's good to hear that you're making progress. I'm glad you reached out. I've missed our conversations." I appreciated his support, and as the conversation continued, we delved into deeper topics. We talked about the importance of maintaining connections with people who matter and how easy it was to lose touch when life gets busy. Michael's perspective was refreshing, and his encouragement reminded me of the value of old friendships. Eventually, our discussion turned to the future. Michael shared his own aspirations and projects, and we brainstormed ideas and offered advice to one another. The exchange was invigorating, and I realized how much I had missed having someone to share my thoughts and plans with. As the meeting drew to a close, Michael and I made plans to stay in touch more regularly. We agreed to catch up again soon and to support each other in our respective endeavors. The reconnection felt like a breath of fresh air, and I left the cafe with a renewed sense of purpose. In the days that followed, I made an effort to reconnect with other old friends and acquaintances. I reached out to a few more people, rekindling relationships that had faded over time. Each interaction was a reminder of the importance of maintaining connections and the joy that comes from revisiting old friendships. The process of reconnecting wasn't just about mending old relationships. It was also about growing and evolving as a person. The lessons learned from the past and the support of friends helped me navigate the present with a sense of clarity and hope. As spring turned into summer, I continued to embrace the changes in my life, both personally and professionally. The journey had been challenging, but it had also been rewarding. I had found new paths, rediscovered old friendships, and learned valuable lessons along the way. Looking ahead, I felt optimistic about the future. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined me. Instead, I was focused on the opportunities that lay before me and the connections I was rebuilding. Life was moving forward, and with each step, I was finding a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment. Summer had fully arrived, bringing with it longer days and a vibrant energy that seemed to infuse everything around me. My photography project was gaining momentum, and I was invited to showcase my work at a prestigious art fair. It was an exciting opportunity, one that promised to elevate my career and reach a broader audience. The preparations for the art fair consumed much of my time. I was focused on perfecting my presentation and ensuring that my work would make a strong impression. The art fair was a major event in the local art scene, attracting collectors, critics, and art enthusiasts from all over. It was the kind of opportunity that artists dream of, and I was determined to make the most of it. One afternoon, while I was busy organizing my exhibits, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Jane, Clara's old friend who had been instrumental in reconnecting us. She sounded excited and a bit nervous. "Dylan, I hope you're doing well," she said. "I wanted to ask you a favor. Clara is organizing a charity gala for the community center, and she was hoping you might consider participating. It's a big event, and she thinks your involvement could make a real difference." The request caught me off guard. Clara had been working on various community initiatives, but I hadn't anticipated her reaching out for support, especially considering our history. I was curious about her motivation and decided to give Jane's request some thought. "Why does Clara want me involved?" I asked, trying to understand the context. Jane explained that the gala was a significant event for the community center, aimed at raising funds and awareness for their programs. Clara was deeply invested in the cause and believed that my participation would help draw attention and encourage more support. It was clear that Clara was sincere in her efforts and had continued her commitment to positive change. After weighing the options, I agreed to participate. It was an opportunity to contribute to a worthy cause and to show that I was willing to support positive community efforts, despite the past. Jane was thrilled with the news and promised to provide more details about the event. As the day of the charity gala approached, I found myself reflecting on how much had changed. The invitation to participate in the event was not just about supporting Clara's efforts but also about demonstrating my own growth and willingness to move forward. It was a chance to make a positive impact and to be part of something greater than myself. The night of the gala arrived, and I prepared for the event with a mix of anticipation and nerves. The venue was an elegant ballroom, beautifully decorated with twinkling lights and colorful floral arrangements. The atmosphere was lively, filled with the hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses. Clara was present, looking poised and radiant as she mingled with guests and spoke passionately about the community center's mission. I arrived early to set up my contribution, a series of exclusive photographs that I had created specifically for the event. Each piece was meant to capture the spirit of the community and the positive changes that the center had fostered. As I worked on the final touches, I noticed Clara glancing in my direction. Her expression was one of cautious optimism, and when she approached me, she greeted me with a warm smile. "Dylan," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you so much for being here. Your support means a lot, not just to me but to everyone involved with the center." "It's my pleasure," I replied, shaking her hand. "I'm glad to be part of this event. It's important to support initiatives that make a difference." Clara's eyes reflected genuine gratitude. "I've been working hard to turn things around, and this gala is a big step for me. I hope it's a success." As the evening unfolded, the gala proved to be a resounding success. The guests were engaged and generous, and the atmosphere was one of camaraderie and shared purpose. Clara's dedication to the community center was evident, and her speech about the importance of supporting local initiatives resonated with the audience. My own exhibit was well received, and I had the opportunity to engage with attendees, discussing the inspiration behind my work and the impact of the community center. The conversations were enlightening and affirming, reinforcing my commitment to both my art and my involvement in meaningful causes. As the night drew to a close, Clara and I shared a quiet moment away from the crowd. There was a sense of mutual respect and understanding that had developed over time. Despite the challenges of the past, it was clear that both of us had grown and found ways to contribute positively to the world around us. "Thank you again for everything, Dylan," Clara said softly. "I know it wasn't easy, but your presence here tonight means a lot." "It was worth it," I replied. "You're doing something important, and I'm glad to support it." With that, we parted ways, each of us carrying the sense of accomplishment and renewal that the evening had brought. The gala had been more than just an event, it had been a testament to the power of change, growth, and the ability to move forward despite past difficulties. As I left the venue and headed home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The opportunities before me were exciting, and the connections I was rebuilding were meaningful. Life was moving forward, and with each step, I was embracing the promise of new beginnings and positive change. Summer was in full swing, and the buzz from the charity gala had begun to settle. The event had been a success, and it had provided a sense of closure and achievement. For Clara and me, it was a reminder of how far we had come from the turmoil of the past. Yet, life had a way of bringing unexpected turns, and soon, I found myself facing a new chapter. One afternoon, as I was reviewing some proofs for an upcoming exhibition, I received a phone call from an unexpected source, my old college professor, Dr. Harrison. He had been a mentor and a significant influence on my early career. And I hadn't spoken to him in years. "Dylan," Dr. Harrison's voice was warm and familiar. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "No, not at all," I replied. "It's great to hear from you. What's going on?" Dr. Harrison explained that he was organizing a retrospective exhibition of his former students' works, celebrating their growth and achievements over the years. He had heard about my recent success and wanted to include my work in the show. The opportunity was a significant honor and a chance to showcase my progress on a broader stage. I was thrilled at the prospect and eagerly agreed to participate. The exhibition would be held at a prestigious gallery in the city, and it promised to bring together a diverse audience of art lovers, critics, and fellow artists. It was an excellent chance to highlight the growth and transformation I had experienced. As I prepared for the exhibition, I was reminded of my journey over the past year, the personal challenges, the professional milestones, and the efforts to rebuild and move forward. It was a period of intense growth and reflection, and I was eager to share the results of that journey with a new audience. The day of the retrospective exhibition arrived, and the gallery was abuzz with excitement. The space was elegantly arranged, showcasing a variety of works from different artists who had once been Dr. Harrison's students. The atmosphere was one of celebration and camaraderie, and I felt a profound sense of gratitude as I mingled with the other participants and attendees. Clara was among the guests, having been invited by Dr. Harrison as a supporter of his former students. Her presence was unexpected, but it felt like a fitting continuation of our recent interactions. She had come to show her support and to see the work of the artists she had once known. When I saw Clara, she approached with a warm smile and a look of genuine admiration. "Dylan, your work looks amazing. I'm so glad to see you here and thriving." "Thank you, Clara," I said, feeling a sense of mutual respect. "It's great to see you here too." As the evening progressed, I had the chance to speak with Clara about our experiences and reflections. The conversation was marked by a sense of understanding and reconciliation. We discussed the challenges we had faced, the lessons we had learned, and the ways in which we had both grown. Clara shared insights into her continued efforts with the community center and her ongoing commitment to making a positive impact. Her sincerity and dedication were evident, and it was clear that she was genuinely focused on her personal and professional growth. "Sometimes," Clara said thoughtfully, "it takes a significant event to make us see things clearly and push us toward change. I've learned a lot from the past year, and I'm committed to moving forward with a sense of purpose." I nodded in agreement. The past has been a difficult teacher, but it has also shown us the importance of growth and resilience. It's about finding a way to use those lessons to create something meaningful. As the night drew to a close, the retrospective exhibition was hailed as a success, and the positive feedback from attendees was encouraging. The event had been more than just a showcase of art. It had been a celebration of growth, reflection, and the ability to overcome challenges. As I bid farewell to Clara and the other guests, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction and closure. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had led to a place of understanding and renewal. The exhibition was a testament to the progress I had made and the positive changes that had come from the experiences of the past. Walking home that evening, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point. The past year had been filled with unexpected twists and turns, but it had also been a period of profound growth and transformation. The connections I had rebuilt, the opportunities I had embraced, and the lessons I had learned had all contributed to a renewed sense of purpose. As I looked ahead, I felt a sense of optimism and hope for the future. The past was no longer a source of pain but a foundation for growth and new beginnings. Life was moving forward, and I was ready to embrace the opportunities that lay ahead with a renewed sense of confidence and purpose. The summer days grew warmer, and the city buzzed with the energy of ongoing events and activities. My career continued to flourish with the recent success of the retrospective exhibition, and I was preparing for my next big project, a solo exhibition that promised to be a significant milestone in my artistic journey. The preparations for the solo exhibition were extensive. I spent countless hours curating the pieces, arranging the gallery space, and working on promotional materials. It was a culmination of my work over the past year, and I was eager to share it with the world. The exhibition was set to open in a few weeks, and the excitement was palpable. Amidst the hustle and bustle of preparation, I received an unexpected invitation. It was from Clara, who had sent me a note expressing a desire to meet and discuss something important. Given our recent interactions and the mutual respect that had developed, I was curious to hear what she had to say. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe, a place where we had previously shared conversations and reflections. When I arrived, Clara was already seated, looking thoughtful and composed. She greeted me with a warm smile and gestured for me to sit. "Thank you for meeting with me," Clara said. "I know you've been busy with your upcoming exhibition, and I appreciate you taking the time." "Of course," I replied. "What's on your mind?" Clara took a deep breath, her eyes meeting mine with a mix of determination and vulnerability. "I wanted to talk to you about something that's been on my mind for a while. After the charity gala and the recent changes in my life, I've been reflecting on everything that's happened. I realize that there are still some unresolved issues, and I want to address them." I listened intently as Clara continued. She explained that she had been working on a project of her own, one that involved documenting her journey and the impact of the community center's work. It was a personal endeavor aimed at creating a visual narrative of her efforts and the positive changes that had resulted from them. "I've been documenting everything through photographs and interviews," Clara said. "It's been a way for me to process my experiences and share the story of how the community center has made a difference. I've also been working on a series of pieces that reflect on the past year and the lessons I've learned." Her honesty and dedication were evident, and it was clear that Clara was committed to using her experience to make a positive impact. She continued by explaining that she wanted to include some of her work in my upcoming exhibition. The idea was to create a dialogue between our respective projects, highlighting the themes of growth, resilience, and transformation. I thought it might be meaningful to show how our journeys intersect and how we've both used our experiences to contribute positively, Clara explained. It's a way of acknowledging the past while also celebrating the progress we've made. I considered her proposal thoughtfully. The notion of including Clara's work in my exhibition was both unexpected and intriguing. It offered a chance to create a more nuanced narrative, one that reflected the complexity of our experiences and the ways in which we had both evolved. I think it's a powerful idea, I said after a moment. It would be a meaningful addition to the exhibition and would help convey a more complete story. Clara's relief was palpable, and we discussed the details of how to integrate her work into the exhibition. The plan involved creating a dedicated section that would showcase her project alongside mine, with accompanying explanations and reflections. As we finalized the arrangements, Clara and I reflected on how far we had come from the tumultuous period that had defined our past. The process of working together on this new project was a testament to our growth and the ability to find common ground despite previous difficulties. The day of the solo exhibition arrived, and the gallery was filled with a sense of anticipation and excitement. The space was beautifully arranged, with Clara's work complementing my own in a harmonious display. The integration of her project added depth to the exhibition, creating a dialogue that resonated with the audience. As guests arrived and explored the exhibition, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. The combination of our projects provided a rich and engaging experience, and the narrative of growth and transformation was evident throughout the gallery. During the opening reception, Clara and I had the opportunity to interact with attendees and discuss our work. The conversations were thoughtful and reflective, and it was clear that the exhibition had successfully conveyed the themes of resilience and positive change. As the evening drew to a close, Clara and I took a moment to step back and appreciate the culmination of our efforts. The exhibition had been a significant milestone, and the collaborative aspect had added a unique and meaningful dimension to the project. "Thank you for making this possible," Clara said, her voice filled with gratitude. "It's been a journey, and I'm glad we could share this moment." "It's been a pleasure," I replied. "The exhibition has been a testament to our growth and the positive changes we've both made. I'm proud of what we've accomplished." With that, we bid each other farewell, each of us carrying a sense of accomplishment and renewal. The exhibition had been more than just a showcase of art. It had been a reflection of our journeys and a celebration of the progress we had made. As I left the gallery that night, I felt a profound sense of closure and optimism. The past had shaped us, but it no longer defined us. The future was full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. The successful solo exhibition had marked a significant milestone in my career, and life seemed to be settling into a new, positive rhythm. The feedback from the exhibition was overwhelmingly positive, and both Clara and I received praise for the meaningful collaboration. It was a period of optimism and accomplishment. But as with many things in life, stability was often fleeting. Just as I was beginning to enjoy the fruits of our labor, an unexpected turn of events threatened to unravel the progress we had made. It began with a series of phone calls and messages from friends and colleagues, all expressing their concern and confusion. They had heard unsettling rumors and were unsure how to process the information. The details were vague, but it was clear that something significant had happened. My concern deepened when I received a call from Jane, Clara's old friend who had been instrumental in our recent interactions. Her voice was filled with distress. "Dylan, have you seen the news?" Jane asked, her tone anxious. I hadn't, and my heart sank as Jane explained the situation. A local news outlet had published an article that detailed a scandalous claim about Clara's past, a claim that implicated her in some questionable activities linked to her work with the community center. The article was sensationalist, and its timing seemed designed to cause maximum disruption. The fallout was immediate and intense. The media frenzy quickly spiraled out of control, and the story spread across social media. Clara was thrust back into the public eye, and the negative attention was overwhelming. Her reputation, which she had worked so hard to rebuild, was once again under attack. I was deeply troubled by the news, not only because of Clara's situation but also because of the potential impact on the recent exhibition and the collaborative effort we had put forth. I decided to reach out to Clara directly to offer my support and to understand the situation better. When we spoke, Clara's voice was strained but resolute. She was aware of the situation and had already started working on a response. She was determined to clear her name and address the false claims head-on. "This is a nightmare," Clara said, her frustration evident. "I don't understand why this is happening now. I've been working so hard to make amends and move forward." I offered my support and suggested that we hold a press conference to address the allegations and present the facts. It was important to confront the situation openly and provide clarity to the public. Clara agreed, and we began preparing for the press conference, working with her legal team and public relations experts to ensure a strong and accurate response. The press conference was held a few days later, and the atmosphere was tense. Clara and her team addressed the allegations head-on, providing evidence and context to refute the claims. They emphasized her commitment to transparency and her ongoing efforts to make a positive impact through her work with the community center. The response from the media and the public was mixed. Some supported Clara and appreciated her transparency, while others continued to question and criticize. The situation was far from resolved, and it was clear that the negative attention would take time to diminish. Throughout the ordeal, I remained in close contact with Clara, offering my support and advice. The experience was challenging for both of us, but it also reaffirmed the importance of standing by one another during difficult times. As the weeks went by, the intensity of the media coverage gradually subsided, but the damage to Clara's reputation was significant. The support from her friends and allies, including myself, helped her navigate the fallout, but the road to recovery was long and uncertain. In the midst of the turmoil, I reflected on the lessons learned and the importance of resilience. The past year had been a journey of growth and transformation, and the recent events served as a reminder of the unpredictable nature of life. Despite the setbacks, Clara and I remained committed to our respective paths and to supporting one another. As I continued with my own projects and personal growth, I kept in mind the value of perseverance and the importance of standing by those who mattered. The challenges we faced were daunting, but they also provided an opportunity for deeper understanding and stronger connections. The future remained uncertain, but with each step forward, I was more prepared to face whatever came next. The experience had reinforced the importance of resilience, integrity, and the ability to support one another in times of adversity. As autumn approached, the fallout from the scandal had settled into a difficult but manageable situation. Clara's reputation had been significantly damaged, but her resolve remained strong. Despite the adversity, she continued her efforts with the community center and worked tirelessly to regain trust and rebuild her image. The public response was mixed, and it became clear that the road to recovery would be long and challenging. Clara's determination to move forward was admirable, but the weight of the scandal lingered, casting a shadow over her efforts. In the meantime, I was busy with my own projects and continuing to navigate the complexities of my career. My solo exhibition had opened doors and brought new opportunities, but it was clear that the situation with Clara was still affecting me personally and professionally. One crisp autumn morning, I received an invitation to a private event hosted by the community center. Clara was organizing a fundraiser aimed at supporting local initiatives and rebuilding relationships with the community. It was a bold move, and she hoped it would help restore faith in her work and contribute positively to the center's mission. I decided to attend the event, both to show my support and to see firsthand the efforts Clara was making to overcome the recent challenges. The fundraiser was held at a charming venue, decorated with autumnal colors and filled with an air of hopeful determination. When I arrived, Clara greeted me warmly. She appeared more composed and focused than she had been in recent weeks. Her commitment to the cause was evident, and she had clearly put a lot of effort into organizing the event. "Thank you for coming," Clara said, her voice steady. "It means a lot to have your support, especially during this time." "It's important to me," I replied. "I admire your dedication and the effort you're putting into turning things around." As the event unfolded, it was clear that Clara had successfully brought together a supportive group of attendees. The atmosphere was positive, and the focus was on the community's needs and the impact of the center's work. Clara spoke passionately about the center's programs and the importance of continued support. Throughout the evening, I observed the interactions and conversations taking place. Many of the guests were people who had been involved with the center before the scandal. And their presence was a testament to the enduring relationships and commitment to the cause. One of the highlights of the event was a presentation showcasing the success stories of individuals who had benefited from the community center's programs. The stories were moving and served as a powerful reminder of the positive impact of Clara's work. After the event, Clara and I had a chance to speak privately. The evening had been a success, and there was a renewed sense of hope and optimism. Clara expressed her gratitude for the support she had received and the progress she had made in rebuilding trust. "It's been a challenging journey," Clara said, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and determination. "But tonight has shown me that there's still a strong foundation of support and a way forward. I'm committed to continuing this work and proving that we can overcome the setbacks." "I believe in what you're doing," I replied. "Your dedication and resilience are inspiring. It's clear that you're making a difference, and I'm glad to be part of that journey." The event marked a turning point for Clara, and it was evident that she was making strides in repairing her reputation and rebuilding trust with the community. The road ahead remained challenging, but the progress made that evening was a positive step toward overcoming the difficulties of the past. As autumn continued, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this point. The experiences of the past year had been a roller coaster of emotions and challenges. But they had also provided valuable lessons and opportunities for growth. The connection between Clara and me had evolved into a place of mutual respect and understanding. Despite the hardships, we had both grown and found ways to contribute positively to our respective paths. The events of the past year had tested our resilience, but they had also strengthened our commitment to making a difference. Looking ahead, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The challenges we had faced had not defined us but had instead shaped our path forward. With each step, I was ready to embrace the opportunities and continue building on the progress we had made. The journey was far from over, but with hope and perseverance, I was confident that the future held promise and potential for both Clara and me. Winter descended upon the city, bringing with it a crisp chill and a fresh start to the new year. The holiday season was a time for reflection and renewal, and it was a welcome pause from the whirlwind of the past few months. Clara and I had both made significant strides in our personal and professional lives. And the beginning of the year offered a chance to look ahead with optimism. My solo exhibition had been well received, and the exposure had led to exciting new opportunities. I was working on several new projects and collaborations that promised to further my career and expand my creative horizons. It was a period of growth and exploration, and I was eager to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. Clara, too, was making progress. The fundraiser had been a success, and she was continuing her work with the community center with renewed vigor. The support she had received from the community was encouraging, and she was focused on implementing new programs and initiatives to further the center's mission. One snowy afternoon, I received a message from Clara, inviting me to a small gathering she was hosting to celebrate the start of the new year and to thank those who had supported her during the recent challenges. The invitation was heartfelt, and I was touched by the gesture. When I arrived at Clara's home, I was greeted by a warm and inviting atmosphere. The space was decorated with festive touches, and the scent of freshly baked treats filled the air. The gathering was intimate, with a close group of friends and supporters coming together to celebrate the new year and reflect on the progress made. Clara welcomed me with a genuine smile and a hug. "I'm so glad you could make it," she said. "This gathering is a way for me to express my gratitude and to look forward to what the new year holds." The evening was filled with meaningful conversations, laughter, and a sense of camaraderie. Clara spoke about the plans for the community center and her vision for the future. It was clear that she was passionate about her work and committed to making a positive impact. As the night went on, Clara and I found a moment to talk privately. The conversation was filled with a sense of mutual respect and understanding. We discussed our recent experiences, the lessons learned, and the excitement of new beginnings. "This past year has been a journey," Clara said thoughtfully. "There have been challenges, but there have also been moments of growth and hope. I'm looking forward to what's next and continuing to build on the progress we've made." "I feel the same way," I replied. "The experiences we've shared have been difficult, but they've also shaped us in meaningful ways. I'm excited about the future and the opportunities that lie ahead." As the new year unfolded, Clara and I continued to move forward with our respective projects. The support we had received from our friends, colleagues, and the community had been invaluable, and we were both committed to making the most of the new opportunities. The winter season gave way to spring, and with it came a sense of renewal and fresh possibilities. Clara's work with the community center was gaining momentum, and she was seeing positive results from the programs and initiatives she had implemented. The support from the community was growing, and Clara was finding new ways to make a difference. In my own career, the new projects and collaborations were proving to be exciting and fulfilling. The creative opportunities were expansive, and I was grateful for the chance to explore new ideas and push the boundaries of my work. As spring approached, Clara and I found ourselves reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this point. The challenges and setbacks had been significant, but they had also provided valuable lessons and opportunities for growth. Our paths had intersected in meaningful ways, and we had both emerged stronger and more focused. The future was filled with promise, and we were ready to embrace the new beginnings that lay ahead. The experiences of the past year had shaped us, but they had not defined us. Instead, they had prepared us for the exciting opportunities and challenges that awaited. As I looked forward to the new year and the possibilities it held, I felt a sense of optimism and confidence. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been transformative and rewarding. With hope and determination, I was ready to embrace the future and continue building on the progress we had made. Spring had fully arrived, bringing with it a burst of color and new life. The city was blooming with vibrancy, and the fresh season seemed to mirror the renewal and positive changes that had taken place over the past months. Clara and I continued to move forward with our respective projects, and life was settling into a rhythm of productivity and optimism. One sunny afternoon, as I was reviewing some new work in my studio, I received a call from Clara. Her voice was filled with excitement and a hint of nervousness. "Dylan, I have something important I want to share with you," Clara said. "Can we meet?" I agreed immediately, curious about what she had to say. We decided to meet at a local cafe, a place that had become a favorite spot for both of us. When we met, Clara was holding a folder filled with documents and photographs. She looked both excited and relieved. "I've been working on something for the community center," Clara began. "It's a new initiative that I believe will make a significant impact, and I wanted to share it with you first." Clara explained that the new initiative was a comprehensive program aimed at expanding the community center's reach and impact. It included a series of workshops, mentorship programs, and collaborative projects with local artists and organizations. The goal was to create a supportive network that would provide valuable resources and opportunities for individuals in need. The program also included a partnership with a local gallery to showcase the work of emerging artists from the community. It was a bold and ambitious project, and Clara's dedication to making it a reality was evident. "I'm really excited about this," Clara said, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "I think it has the potential to create real change and provide new opportunities for people in our community." I was impressed by the scope and vision of the initiative. It was clear that Clara had put a tremendous amount of thought and effort into the project. And the potential impact was significant. "I think it's a fantastic idea," I said, offering my support. "It's great to see you channeling your energy and passion into something so meaningful. How can I help?" Clara's face lit up with gratitude. "I'd love to have your support in showcasing the work of the emerging artists. Your experience and connections could be invaluable in making this a success." We discussed the details of the collaboration, and I agreed to help by curating an exhibition of work from the artists involved in the program. It was an exciting opportunity to contribute to Clara's initiative and to further support the community. As the weeks went by, the initiative began to take shape. The workshops and mentorship programs were well received, and the gallery partnership was a success. The exhibition of emerging artists was a highlight, showcasing a diverse range of talent and creativity. The event was a testament to the positive impact of Clara's vision and the collaborative efforts of everyone involved. The success of the initiative was a significant milestone for Clara and the community center. It marked a full-circle moment, reflecting the growth and transformation that had taken place over the past year. The positive feedback and support from the community were a testament to the hard work and dedication that had gone into the project. At the closing reception of the exhibition, Clara and I took a moment to reflect on the journey. The past year had been filled with challenges, but it had also been marked by resilience and progress. The initiative was a symbol of the positive changes that had emerged from the difficulties we had faced. "It's incredible to see how far we've come," Clara said, her voice filled with a sense of accomplishment. "I'm grateful for your support and for the opportunity to make a difference." "It's been a rewarding experience," I replied. "The journey has had its ups and downs, but it's led to something meaningful and impactful. I'm proud of what we've achieved." As the event concluded, Clara and I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this point. The challenges we had faced had been significant, but they had also provided valuable lessons and opportunities for growth. The full circle moment was a reminder of the progress we had made and the positive impact we had been able to achieve. Looking ahead, both Clara and I were excited about the future and the possibilities it held. The journey had been transformative, and we were ready to embrace the next chapter with optimism and hope. The spring sun set over the city, casting a warm glow over the achievements of the past year. As we parted ways, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction and anticipation for what lay ahead. The future was filled with promise, and with each step, I was confident that we would continue to build on the progress we had made and create new opportunities for growth and success.